So, Arcane
Oh man, this fucking story rules.
was a success, but did not translate to new League of Legends players. The
That's
first
crazy.
first season was a big breakout hit, but they didn't have any tie-in content at the time, so they kind of just saw an increase in people making accounts, but they ultimately just kind of left them and didn't really use much.
Do they think it's because there wasn't tie-in content to keep them? Do you think that's why?
And so this time around, there was a bunch of tie-in content, and it was successful by audience metrics. And it just the overall cost is the most expensive animated series. Of course, is going to be very high to
Pretty pricey,
right? 250 million, I think, was the figure, and then they were getting like 3 million from Netflix per episode, and then it says 3 million for international as well, or for it airing in China. But one way or another, with all the success of that, the goal of promoting the game and then getting people into the game ultimately did not lead to new players. So, I mean, if the thing being successful on its own is like good and means that you can continue that as its own venture for its own sake, then like it is of course like way too expensive at that point. But a lot of the time, the tail end on these things, if you can sell or whatever the case may be, I don't know, like streamers work differently these days, but like a show made at a loss like this, if it's very popular, can eventually catch back up. But if it's just about getting new players on League of Legends,
okay, so there's so many things going on here. There's so many things going on here that make this so interesting. Okay, step one. Hey, Wooly, you watched Arcane, or at least some of Arcane.
Yeah.
What appealed to you about Arcane?
It was a cool world and the characters were cool, and I thought the story
was a cool world and the characters were cool.
The story was fun. I enjoyed the show.
So what if we gave you a multiplayer game that had very little characterization, no world, and no story?
Well,
does that appeal to you?
It hasn't done it yet, and it continues to not. Yet to boot that thing.
Number two, Arcane is a like legitimate, like, so you watched enough of Fallout to be like, this feels like Fallout, like, the vibes, right?
Yeah.
Arcane, the vibes aren't anything like League of Legends. I didn't see Jinx and Vi struggling to avoid getting banned for calling each other every slur they could think of because one of them went mid. Right? It's the tone and the vibe is totally different. Number three, there's a bunch of League of Legends spin-off games, but none of them take place in the setting that Arcane takes place in. The RPG by the Battle Chasers guys takes place in the Sunken Isles. There's a character action game that takes place in like an ice area. There's the card game. Like, none of them are the direct go from Arcane to this game.
I mean, I would say the bigger one being like story analogs makes sense because Edge Runners, I'm sure, did its job in getting attention over to Cyberpunk, because
Edge Runners has the Cyberpunk vibe.
Exactly, and you have a big narrative story-driven world for you there. Keep those words in mind.
But the most important thing, and this is the one that kicks, like, it's really funny because, like, they're not listening to themselves. One of the reasons they started with all of these spin-off games for League of Legends, they talked about this like 6-7 years ago. I'll never be able to find the interview, but they said that they believe everybody knows about League of Legends who plays games, and they have hit the capacity for people playing League of Legends. They can't grow anymore because people know about it or have tried it and like it or don't. So what they're going to do is leverage all of these characters to make a wide variety of new games, like a card game or an MMO or a shooter
or a fighting game
people into that, or a fighting game. So they admit there's no one left to get into League of Legends because League is so big and has been around for so long that, like, Wooly, you know that PUBG shit where we didn't know about PUBG and we're like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you fucking heard about League of fucking Legends. Mm-hmm. League of Legends fucking everywhere. Dota and League are just omnipresent.
So FF14 continues to grow with its releasing of like these expansion contents and story things that are all like, again, big narrative driven, and time to jump in is now, updates and stuff. For a game that's not that story driven, I think another point of comparison would be like Fortnite, where they're like, here's a bunch of new costumes and tie-ins and whatever.
And they constantly remake the game into new shit.
And
new
the
seasons.
game, I was gonna say, and the main game itself like becomes completely unrecognizable from what it used to be. Does League do anything like that? Like,
not on that scale.
Not on that scale.
They patch it constantly. League has this feeling of they want to add new characters all the time because that's cool, but it has this feeling of they want to fine tune it into like the ideal game, right?
Okay.
And the final thing, and this is really important. So I scroll on the TikTok, and there's a lot of Arcane fan cams and shit like that, and people love that show. People are crazy about that show. But every single piece of social media content you see from somebody who plays League and watched Arcane is don't start playing League of Legends.
Right.
Don't.
Right.
Don't start playing League of Legends. And I cannot, like, I would advise you, Wooly, personally or professionally, to fucking spend the 10 hours it needs to dip your toe in, because it cannot be overstated what a miserably antagonistic experience League of Legends can be. So it is without parallel.
I mean,
it has no peers.
I was going to say that this is a wild development with the franchise, because the second story here is that they're making spin-offs. They've announced new League of Legends shows that they're working on, but also direct Arcane spin-offs that they're also working on aggressively. So things were, enough of a hit that they're like, let's do more. But but this tapestry of like League-related side projects all exist, and it seems like the base thing it's built on is the large stagnant pool that might end up feeling the worst for anyone that decides to follow the path to its origins.
You know what the best thing about those spinoffs, Willie? One of the things that I brought up is that if they had a direct relation spinoff game for people to go from Arcane to, that'd be one thing. Right? So like if 2XKO was out right now.
Yeah.
You could tell people, like, because that's using like the Arcane levels and iconography.
Yeah.
You could tell people to go over there. So the three spinoffs, they've said where those spinoffs are going to occur. They're going to occur in Ionia, Noxus, and Demacia. All three regions which have no spinoff property to connect to.
Okay, so
because
they're isolated.
Properties are in Freljord and the Sunken Isles and Cards and whatnot.
So they're all isolated things they're grabbing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it is something to kind of look and go like, well, if this is working, this is successful, and we're making more of it. However, that original goal of getting you to sign up,
that original goal was a known lie to themselves. Like, this feels like cope for their investors or some shit, because like before Arcane even got greenlit, they're like, well, everyone, we got everybody on League that's ever going to go on League. We got to expand, and that's what's behind this massive expansion into like 10 different genres and games, and it's why Valorant is not a League of Legends shooter. Because they're like, League of Legends players don't want to play a fucking shooter. So we got to use the same ideas and design elements to make a different audience.
I mean, those music videos drop, and I'm like, look at that animation go. Look at that costume. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like this can also just, I guess, with its existing player base, stay healthy forever. With just
healthy is a choice word. I would say the last word I would ever describe the League of Legends player base as is healthy.
Profitable.
There you go.
All right.